Welcome back to Sports in LA. Pleased to welcome our next guest, Danny Cortenraede. Did I get it right?
You said it right.
Yeah.
I always need to explain my last name or
not that
how you
hard.
pronounce it. Yeah.
I just got nervous about it. You are the managing partner and co-founder of Venturerock.
Yep.
You have an enormous fund dedicated to sports technology, and I want to hear about your journey coming from digital agency background over into big money, man.
Thank you, first of all, for having me. So my name is Danny, an entrepreneur. Built multiple businesses in the last few years. As you can hear from my accent, I'm originally from Europe, from the Netherlands. So I started with a production company. It's called Enterprise Media. We did a lot for Walt Disney, Disney Channel, ABN AMRO. It's a big bank over in Europe. Long story short, I was able to sell that company. After that, I co-founded One and a Halves that's affiliated to 433. Now, 433 is the biggest soccer community in the world. So we built it up to 70 million followers and around 4 billion views per month on the channel. Started from scratch, started with zero, built it up to a multi-million-dollar agency. So I work closely with Nike and Adidas, Puma, and a lot of athletes, mainly in the soccer. We started in Amsterdam at around 40, 50 people on my team. And then we opened a second office in New York City. So I moved 5 years back to New York with my wife and 2 little boys to run the second office in New York. Working here in the States with Nike and Adidas and Puma. Rock Nation, for example, official partner from the MLS, La Liga. That went well, so we opened the third office here in Los Angeles. So I moved 3.5 years back to LA. And then I was able to sell my shares 1.5 years back. And then I co-founded this fund. So we launched a 75 million fund last year. It's not a typical VC. We're much more a venture builder. So also my partners, everybody know how it is to fail, but also now it is to succeed and have an exit on your name. So we combined our knowledge and developed the program, how to scale companies. We're looking for early stage startups. So our thesis is to get a company from zero to Series A. And we do that by using a 72 steps program.
How many times have you given that pitch?
Yeah.
We got down dialed.
I'm sitting here, right?
Down. I know. You're just so smooth with it. I love it. Part of, when you're building One and a Halves is the partnership aspect.
Yeah.
I want to get into your mentality as you approach partnerships in those early days.
Yeah, that's a great question. Why we're building 433 into a community that took a lot of time, a lot of dedication and consistency, right, to build the biggest soccer community in the world. And we waited a long time for start monetizing the channel. So we get already a lot of offers, for example, from brands who want to sell a watch on a channel or whatever. But actually, we declined those deals. We could make 30K per post, but for us, it didn't make sense to already start monetizing because our followers was the most important for us, right? So we declined, and then we start working with the sports brands after 3.5 years. The biggest was Nike for us. That was, of course, an A brand, and they gave us the trust to start building with them campaigns. And it was not just that we put a commercial on our channel. It was much more looking for that sweet spot between what Nike was looking for. To give you a concrete example, when Nike, for example, launched a new jersey or shoes, we were creating a campaign together with Nike to see, okay, how can we develop that and launch it on our channel? So our people in my team, we had creative directors, content creators, graphic designers, and then create a campaign what also looks at the objectives from Nike, of course, but also at our channel 433, if that makes sense.
Quick question on that, utilizing athletes versus utilizing teams. Back then, compared to now, have you seen any transition from being in that space?
Yeah, we work with both, right? So we work closely with the leagues, La Liga, MLS, Bundesliga, all those different soccer leagues, but also with the athletes from my perspective, right?
Yes.
Working with a league is, of course, much more layers you have to do with the VP, the CMO, to making sure, okay, everything is online. Working with the athletes, we were also managing a lot of soccer players, social media, if you have a great relationship with the agent and also personally with the athletes, it's easier, right? It can go faster than working with a league. But yeah, actually we work with both and we enjoyed it.
So after you got that Nike deal, did that cascade into anything else that did it put you on the map in the way did you feel, or did you already have that mentality that we're just going to continue to go with what we know best?
We were convinced that we were onto something. We saw that, but to be honest, the Nike deal, that was of course a big thing, right? It's of course
they're right there on the corner. You can't miss them. You know?
No, so that was huge, right? To get the trust from a brand and working with them, we felt a lot of gratitude and making sure we delivered the highest quality and making sure everything was in place. And that's still a long-term partnership, working with Nike, working with Adidas, with Puma, with a lot of corporate brands, but that actually fast forward a lot of things for us and helped definitely. Yeah.
Would you say that was one of your top most rewarding moments early on in that process, or was it something else that you could share with
Nike
us?
was definitely one of the we were proud as a team that we could work with those kind of brands, but also working with PSG or Barcelona, Real Madrid, all those famous soccer teams.
So cool.
That was also awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's dive into a little bit of Venturerock and tech. What's some of the technologies in the marketplace that are kind of exciting you now that you kind of give a little insight to everybody
Yeah,
here?
no, for sure. So what we're focusing on is sports media, right? So that is also my background. That's where I know a lot of people have passion for and want to create an impact. A lot of people are using that word, but we really want to create something and change something in the sports industry. So looking for solutions in sports tech, right? That's what we're looking for. It's a big market. I think everybody knows. But in 2021, we were around 13 billion. Last year, we almost hit 25, 30. We will go to 40, 50 billion in the next coming years. So we see the opportunity. It's a growing market. 43% from the investments are going to fan engagement. So that is definitely for us one of the pillars, what we're looking at. Big data is important. Gaming and esports. One of our portfolio companies and founders, Connor, is here. We are very proud to work with the guys, and they are changing the game in the gaming industry. So that's definitely one of our focus. Wearables, for example, right? You know, all Whoop, what they are doing. Yep. That's something where we're looking at. Smart stadiums. There's still a lot of opportunity in that space,
especially internationally.
Yeah, we, as I mentioned, we work closely with a lot of clubs, right? With Barcelona, Real Madrid, but PSG, of course, has an amazing stadium in Paris, but still there are a lot of stadiums, also in Netherlands, where I come from, they are still traditional and old. So there we're looking at and having the connections with those people to see, okay, what can we do? What kind of solutions do we see in the industry and can help scaling those clubs?
There's so much tradition overseas, and when you come in with new technologies or say we're going to shake up how this venue looks in a way, how do you approach that conversation
with the traditional clubs? It can be difficult because also if you look with Barcelona, you still, especially on the C level, they can be older and maybe not already into all the things in the digital transformation. Look, with COVID, everything fast forward. So all the clubs needed to change. They were leaning a lot on media rights, right? That was the biggest income, but the clubs were not playing. So the media rights and the revenue was declining. So they needed to fast forward and they needed to put more into the innovation. So Barca has their own innovation hub. FC Valencia is launching their own fund. So all those clubs are looking at how can we, right, create more revenue streams instead of just leaning on the media rights. And that's where we come in and helping scaling the clubs.
Yeah, and I think one of the predominant conversations within the industry is shorter attention times and how do we deal with this and the in-game experience, fan engagement. So I feel like that's a very easy segue into these conversations internationally. You gotta have the fan engagement and it'll affect your bottom line.
100%. If I look myself or maybe my dad, we were watching the whole game, 90-minute soccer, but that's not happening anymore. Also, if I see my oldest, if he's watching, right, only highlights, or it's not that they're watching the whole game and they're doing 3 things at the same time. So how can we I see you recognize it. Yeah, right. But so how can we get their attention, right? How can we? And then I think overtime, for example, it is a great example how their guys are approaching that. But yeah, that's an opportunity, and where we need to do something with that.
Well, actually, interestingly, women's sports fans of women's sports tend to watch the game much longer than fans of men's sports. So there's another little dig there. Fun fact: SoFi Stadium, great example of how technology can bring people into something that they might not traditionally go to.
Yeah, no, for sure, right? SoFi Stadium, I've been there multiple times. 5.2 billion what they put in the stadium. It's crazy. It's I brought my business partner, and he's very well connected and he went to so many games. But I brought him to the stadium, and he was only just for 30 minutes. He was only watching. He said, "Wow, this is such almost overwhelming what's happening in the stadium, right? It's awesome what those guys created with the big screen and all the fan engagement, everything what they're doing in the stadium." I think that's definitely an example. Yeah, they crushed that space. But again, there are still multiple stadiums. They are not already there. So, yeah.
So pretend you're a VC who has international ambition, working with clubs over there. Do you recommend, say it's venue technology specifically, let's stick on that. And, would you recommend starting domestically and proving the fan engagement here before moving abroad, or does it just not translate?
No, yeah, from my perspective, look, I moved from overseas to here. If you look at the sports tech market, 53% is happening here in the United States. So it's by far the biggest market. It's not comparable with Europe or Asia. So people are looking at the US in terms of sports tech and also smart stadiums. SoFi Stadium is definitely an example. So if you're able to work here with the clubs or have some traction and proof of concept, that will definitely help you get into the other clubs. We also do it sometimes just because we have the relationships in Europe already, start doing some pilots, look if it's working, and then get it here to the United States.
Do you think it's harder to go from US to international or international to here?
No, this is by far the most competitive. And it depends what kind of sports are you looking at, right? Soccer is not so popular yet. I think with Messi, right? He just signed.
The social media numbers on his following and Inter Miami overnight, millions and millions and millions.
It's crazy. Yeah. So that's, of course, that will fast forward everything. And it will have a big impact for soccer here in the United States. World Cup coming up in 2026. But so it's depending, right? So soccer is still the biggest in Europe. Mm-hmm. But if you look at American football or the NBA, you want to be here, right? So
shameless plug. If you want to learn more about fans of soccer, Sports Innovation Lab just put out Fanarchy 26, which is a free report. Sean over here from Sport Business, I've sent it to him and he's nodding his head. It's a good time. You can read into the opportunity here and abroad with also Women's World Cup coming up this fall. So great relationships that you possess. Let's get into your Avery Bradley story a little bit.
No, for sure. So we're working closely with a lot of athletes. Also, of course, in the soccer, because it's my background. So we have a lot of famous soccer players who are part of our fund. Sometimes they just want to invest, right? They want to be part. Some of them, they are more venture partners, so they're helping from multiple angles. But we're also working with NBA players, working also with Kevin Durant and Rich Kleiman, but also, for example, with Avery Bradley. Now, since, I think, 6 months. So I met Avery. It just hit off. He's an amazing guy. For people who don't know Avery, he played, of course, for the Lakers, won the championship in 2020.
And Celtics. 2008 Boston Celtics. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Let's get that right first.
So an amazing guy, played on the highest level. To his own words, he said, Danny, as a black entrepreneur, sometimes it's difficult to get into the VC world or as an entrepreneur. So, and what he's doing and all his amazing relationships and his knowledge as a top tier athlete, look, we can help each other. So I'm texting and sitting down with Avery multiple times per week to see, okay, how can we just bring value to each other? And that's actually going very well. Look, we can evolve and making sure, okay, again, to share his knowledge. If we have a wearable or whatever, or want the connections with the Lakers, he's helping us with that. And he's also jumping into meetings with us, right, to share if we get a pitch, or we had another opportunity that was from a company, a startup, who were looking to analyze games, and that was more with a soccer player. But he brought his analyst also in the call. But for us, that's super valuable, right? I can say I know how to build a company, that knowledge, but it stops, right? I don't know everything. So it's about finding the right team. Just like in a soccer game, you have defenders, you have people who, right, strikers. That's also in business. So that's also where we're looking for, okay, having the right team in place. And Avery is definitely part of that, for sure.
And I think that mindset resonates with a lot of athletes as well.
Yeah.
So last little question here. Rapid fire. Favorite club?
Ajax, Amsterdam.
Why?
I'm from there, so that's I support my club from my hometown. Yeah.
What was your first experience at a game?
Very young age, overwhelming, sitting there in the stadium and watching the game and feeling almost the goosebumps and all the, I don't know. I brought my son also to LAFC, and if I see his eyes and watching the game and with the fans, yeah, that's definitely a great experience. Yeah.
And so your MLS club is LAFC?
I need to be honest what I'm saying. We're working with LA Galaxy and LAFC. Sometimes I get that question, so I need to be careful what I'm answering here. But yeah.
For a new sport that you might be watching for the first time, what piques your interest from a fan engagement standpoint? What immediately draws you in?
From a new sport? What do you mean? So
say you're watching softball for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Is it the storylines?
It's just I have passion for sports. So people who are trying to play at the best level, get the best out of, and see that competitive. That's just what's exciting me. And watching also the fans, how they react. I think now with pickleball coming up, right? Rich and Kevin also putting a lot of time into that space. That's becoming huge here in the United States, but also I think already on a global scale. It's just nice to see how people react and how the fan engagement is working. That triggers me to think about, okay, what is that exactly?
I love that. Well, I want to thank you for coming and sharing some of the insights with everybody. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
All right.